Good day and welcome back to another Dbz Dokkan Battle video. In this video we are going to take a look at the latest Virtual Dokkan Ultimate Clash. So obviously, as you guys should know by now, my procedure is to essentially take on Omega Shenron, and then I'll run through the rest of the bosses afterwards. So Omega Shenron, pretty straightforward. Reduces received damage, grants immunity to being stunned, grants immunity to being sealed. He also cannot have his attack lowered, defense lowered. He locks character switching randomly, so some characters will be locked into place. And of course, he also has the ability to massively lower your defense, which is quite a notable feature. It can really disrupt a lot of units and cause a lot of players some uncomfortable problems. As always, with the Virtual Dokkan Ultimate Clash, the best strategy, or at least my best strategy, is to always go with a full mono team. So that means for any boss in the event, you want to go for example in this situation a full tech team, ideally full extreme or full super, so that you have a backup. Obviously, as you guys should know by now, that's generally my idea. If you need more help on Virtual Dokkan Ultimate Clashes, I do have a video about how to build teams for them that I will link in the top right hand corner. So yeah, that is pretty much it. Now in terms of the Superclass team, the Superclass team did not really get off to a great start. Basically, everything didn't really run as I wanted it to run. We got a little bit unlucky with who took the super attacks. We didn't really get things set up. That's something that can happen with Omega Shenron. Generally speaking, if he locks the wrong unit in place, the wrong unit takes a super, all of a sudden you can really be working from behind, which is always something that's just not ideal in, obviously, these events. Now, Virtual Dokkan Ultimate Clash is what I would classify a difficult event. It's not something that a new player is going to be able to do. And it's not something you're going to be able to do even when you first unlock it. You're going to need quite a large amount of Dokkan Awakened units, which is fairly uncommon for brand new players. And you're also going to need to have the right kind of leads. Generally, you want to have type leads, so that is units that are 120% or more. And generally speaking, you want to have pretty strong units. Otherwise, you want to try and build the best category team you can within that one typing. Now, in terms of, obviously, my good friend Omega Shenron, one of the best strategies you can run here is actually going to be to run evasion. Now, the reason why evasion is so good in this scenario is by evading his super attack, you not only prevent the defense lowering and the high levels of damage, but you also give yourself obviously the opportunity to avoid the follow-up attacks as well. So even if you do get hit by the super attack and your defense is lowered, you can at least avoid taking the follow-up attacks, which will cause a lot of damage. The super is always quite damaging, but generally speaking, it's the follow-up attacks that cause a lot of the concern, at least from what my experience is. Now, obviously, as you saw, the Superclass team did not function that great, so I'm now switching to the Extreme team. The strength that the Extreme team has over the Superclass team is the number of units on the Extreme team that actually have damage reduction. Now, damage reduction is also a fairly strong and fairly powerful mechanic that someone can use to obviously kind of counteract the effects of Omega Shenron. The reason being is he will hit you with his super attack and you will still take a significant portion of damage, but you don't take as much damage again from the follow-up attacks due to the fact that you have damage reduction, not relying on defense. So by having damage reduction, all that big kind of damage and that defense lowering that he doesn't cause you as big a concern as it would if you were relying solely on defense. So we have a pretty strong lineup here. The majority of our damage will come from this Tech Freezer. He's really where our damage kind of lies as a unit, but this team is not too difficult for a player to make. The Golden Freezer, the 50% Golden Freezer, he has obviously 80% damage reduction when he's above 50% in health, which is a very, very powerful technique. You're going to notice that we're not going to take that much notable damage at all We then also have the Demon King Piccolo. Again, another very nice unit because of the fact that he changes orbs, but also has damage reduction, changes orbs, and of course he also has that ability to transform should we need him to. So he can tank fairly well. Then we also have Tech Janemba, who again is a pretty good unit. Obviously not only providing support, but with 2 rainbow orbs also has 30% damage reduction. So very, very strong unit. We then have the free-to-play Lord Slug and the free-to-play Dodoria and Zarbon. I bring Dodoria and Zarbon because of their ability to build up attack and defense and support the Freezer. And then we also have the free-to-play Lord Slug because he meshes relatively well with the Janemba, and also he provides some decent starting stats, along with also having synergy with the Space Traveling Warrior support from the Dodoria and Zarbon. So he does a fairly decent job. He's not the tankiest unit in the world, but he does some decent damage. Obviously, as you guys can see there, he took a fair amount of damage. That can happen. That is one of those things. That is why also the locking in place can also be quite disastrous. That's why you kind of want to avoid bringing units that have defense on super effects, because generally speaking, it's going to be quite intense, because if they get hit by the super, you're then going to suffer a lot of damage, and it's going to be very hard to recover from that. Taking a big chunk of damage in the beginning of these fights is generally what's detrimental, because most teams need at least one turn to really get going if you're not bringing the most premier teams. Obviously, if you're bringing an absolute beast of a team, then you have a lot less problems than if you're not. But generally speaking, a lot of players are not going to be able to just bring automatically some of the best teams in the game. So you're going to want to obviously take a turn to try and build up. And with no items, that can be difficult. If your on the super defense unit gets locked, hit by a super, and then smacked by 18 attacks, you're going to basically take damage. So at the end of the day, everything went fine. The Extreme team handled things a lot better. Generally speaking, you do want to match up Extreme on Extreme and Super on the Super, because you then nullify the little bit of the additional modifier that Extreme units have against Super units and Super units have against Extreme units. It's nothing too major, but it will help you out overall as well, because it just kind of gives you that level one-on-one playing field, which I think most people can always appreciate. But yeah, Omega Shenron obviously was quite challenging. We did definitely fail quite epically with our super team, but like I say, as long as you get the win, it doesn't really matter too much. Now, of course, with Omega Shenron out the way, I will recap all of the other bosses for the Virtual Dokkan Ultimate Clash, so that we can obviously have a pretty decent idea, and you can see what teams I ran. Now, I do run predominantly free-to-play teams, but I will be using obviously summonable units where necessary. I also try to avoid using summonable LR units, but obviously I do need to finish the event, so sometimes you'll see the backup teams are generally a little bit loaded, because I hate running Ultimate Clash like 18 times when there's some mistakes or I make a big boo-boo. So yeah, obviously this is us finishing the Ultimate Clash. We did use a couple extra characters, not a clean sweep this time at all, but we got the job done. So we'll start with the Invisible Man. The Invisible Man is immune to stunning, and he can evade pretty heavily. The trick here with the Invisible Man is to not use a lot of units. Just one summonable unit and the Cyberman is pretty much all you need to take out the Invisible Man, as long as you strike one hit on him. So that will save you a whole, literally 6 units, which you can use later on for Omega Shenron or anyone else. Ake is also a very easy boss. He is immune to stunning, but that's about it, and he's really not difficult at all. So use your weakest or least utility built team to take him out. We then have Thausa. Thausa is immune to stunning and sealing and attack lowering, and he can fire 2 supers, but he doesn't do a lot of damage with them, so you don't need to panic too much with him. Just build a physical team. You don't need to really cater to anything, just make sure they're all under the lead and you should be fine. Supreme Kai will randomly seal a unit and can randomly evade. He's also immune to stunning and sealing, but very similarly, he doesn't do a large amount of damage, so generally speaking, you should again be more than fine. So those two bosses, although they have challenging mechanics, aren't the hardest hitters. Then the next boss is someone that people do generally tend to struggle with, in the form of Trunks. The reason being is Trunks can massively raise his attack after he fires off his super. The trick to this is either to evade the super, preventing the massive raise, or to generally have units with damage reduction. There are some pretty good extreme AGL units. He can't be stunned, he can't be sealed, but generally speaking you should be okay. Some notable units are AGL Golden Freezer, Super 17. These are nice units to soak up the initial super attack. And then units like Berta with their evasion, etc. are also nice kind of supporting or third slot units there. Then we come to Vegeta. Vegeta gave me some big issues. Weirdly enough, my weaker team on paper handled him a lot better. The reason being is Omega Shenron basically took a super before he could seal. But the trick here is to bring 2 sealers. That way you can keep Vegeta sealed up. He can fire multiple super attacks in one turn, and they can hit pretty hard, so you do want to seal him constantly. That is your key to success. Omega Shenron is a great free-to-play one. Ginyu is also a great free-to-play one. Giru is also a great free-to-play one. So there's a decent amount of int free-to-play sealers for you to kind of pick up and use when necessary. Then we have Cell. Cell is immune to super attack sealing, and he heals a lot, and he can hit pretty hard. The trick to him is to stun him. Again, fortunately Master Roshi has a stun on his 12 key. Make sure you hit the 12 key. And obviously the Angel Goku also has a medium chance to stun, which gave our physical team more than enough stuns to adequately handle Cell. Then we have Feet Kamehameha Goku. He's a little bit annoying. He can double super and he can evade, but he's not immune to sealing. Now with Goku you want to seal him. The first team did well until Goku and Arale. I accidentally forgot that they only seal on their 12 key. I hit their 18 key and then basically they didn't seal and they got smacked. Goku can also evade your seal, which can be quite irritating. And then finally Piccolo, who's immune to stunning, but you can seal him. He does heal a lot, so you do need to bring a suitable amount of damage. Here my sealer was only Chi-Chi, and my damage was mainly from my god Vegeta. I would suggest bringing a slightly more damage-orientated lineup than my one, because damage is generally what wins you against Piccolo. Just bring sealers and bring damage, and you'll be fine. So, yeah. And then that's obviously it. Omega Shenron you guys saw, so there's no real need to recap him. Obviously, there's also the missions as well. The missions will drop you quite a few stones, so make sure you do them. And obviously, there are some missions for finishing every stage up to 3 times, which gives you an Elder Kai, which is a fairly decent reward. But yeah, that's pretty much it from me, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a like, and I'll see you in the next one. Until then, take care, stay safe, and bye.